So where were we before? Let's see. I think let's start the watch. Can't remember where we left last time, but I think that yeah, there's still a few syntax things that we need to figure out and lots of boilerplate. Yeah, actually, let's look at this. Yeah, I have to download this latest version. Well, I don't have to, but it's always a good idea. So let's see, where were we? I think we were splitting things into their own modules. So probably polar clock is the one that needs the most love right now. Okay, so again, a little bit of background. What we're trying to do here is to continue with this decorator here. So this decorator should be a polar clock that shows us the time of day. So this is the second one that you can see as it's progressing. Then is the minute fourth. So this, yeah, you can see barely see the minute one. So probably the time that I chose is not the best one. Then we have the hour of day. Is that the hour of day actually? Where is the, yeah, that should be the second bluish line here, or arc. Then there is another line here which is the day of month. Then the other blue one is the month of year. And then lastly, yeah, the biggest one is the day of year, which is inverted. Okay, can also fix that in a little bit. So right now, all these hexagons are built by yeah, by this decoration that we were building before, which is not really using Nano. I think we should move this to Nano. Then we can add all these fancy things with noise, yeah, it's gonna be super cool. Also, these ones over here, well, for some reason I cannot highlight them, but these little graphs, they are also built by hand as OpenGL lines, so they correspond to a keystroke. So you can see, for example, the red line is the input keystrokes, and then the green one is the output. I'm not sure if I can run the message. No, I can't. But yeah, if there's a lot of output, then the green line goes high. Again, this is also built by hand. Maybe we can also build this with Nano. Because what we're doing is we have some sort of array that has, I think it's like a circular buffer where we store the last metrics. Yeah, so this, yeah, the purple one is actually going to Prometheus, or it's actually a signifier of Prometheus loaded data. So this is going to a local instance of Prometheus. What is this called again? It's 9090 probably. Yeah, there's an instance of Prometheus running locally. And so I am going to Prometheus in a background thread with Tokyo and getting the metrics for different things. So for example, this is the load average. You see that 3 lines. So the one that has the most opacity is the last one. So I think it's a minute, and then the 5 minutes, and then the 15 minutes. Yeah, kind of. I think it's like that. So we capture this and we draw them and we can get an idea. And then this green line over here, we are using as a, I think this is set to the number 1 probably, or the number of cores. I can't remember. We'll look at that in a second. And then this one over here, this is the memory. So this again, both of these are gathered from Prometheus. And we can load any Prometheus metrics here if we wanted to. It's kind of a little bit tricky because we cannot, if we could hover and see what we're looking at and maybe get a little link to go to Prometheus, then that would be cool. So this one is showing, for example, this white one is showing the top of the memory, and then this one is showing the used memory. So how this is done is through Alacritty probably here. It's not here, of course. Config Alacritty, Alacritty YAML. So we have built this little chart section in Alacritty, and we are saying that there are default dimensions for each one of these yeah, charts, I guess. I'm also setting a position of 1,000 in X. So basically, I don't want them to show over here. I want them to show slightly to the right. Slightly, so yeah, not the right word. Then lack of imagination. I do not really know how to call this properly. This should be like the chart setup, and this can be the charts array. But it is what it is. So this is the number of input items for time series. So there are some internal counters such as Alacritty output, Alacritty input, and this guy, the async items loaded. And what we see here is yeah, the number of times our Tokyo thread has gone to pull something from somewhere. We're saying that every seconds we want to pull something and it's opaque. Same for the Alacritty output. There's some collision policy sometimes, which means that if another value comes in for the same timestamp, so for every second we store a metric. If I press the same key multiple times or the same second, it should increment this value over and over. And this is done because in Prometheus, I want to overwrite the previous values, whereas in yeah, because Prometheus already contains the historic. So anything I receive from Prometheus is the truth, and whatever I have in my cache can be thrown away. But for this, because we are building this by hand, then we are simply saying, yeah, you know what, just increment the current second, the current active second. So you can see, like, for example, yeah, if I press keys or whatever, then this line should go higher and higher, though maybe the refresh rate is not fast enough right now. Yeah, apparently this is the new lines and not the number of input keystrokes. Maybe, I'm not sure. This could be really keystrokes. I think this is wrong. Well, we'll figure it out. Missing value policies. Can't really remember what that was about. Yeah. All right, so the load. The load is this little graph over here. And it says this is a reference. So this is a decoration that has a reference to a specific yeah, it's a point of reference. So this is saying, you know what? At the value 4, draw a yellow line with a 0.3. And then I'm adding a little bit of height. So what this is saying basically is let's just draw a line somewhere that tells us what is the current, what is the maximum load. And I think I did this because I was working on a 4-core CPU, and even though the load average is not really tied to the number of cores, or it's not really a one-to-one relationship, I always find it a little bit difficult. But yeah, I think in this machine I probably can up this a little bit. Yeah, I have 16. Maybe I can up this to 16, but Yeah, I don't think this also takes effect. If I save this file, it will take effect on the next refresh. Um, but yeah, so the second one is an alert, and it says ties the below series of the same name. So I have a target for this alert, and it's saying if my comparator is more than a threshold of 0, then we should alert. So that means that there's going to be a Prometheus alert somewhere, and the Prometheus alert is here. So this is basically saying, yeah, let's go through whatever we return from these query alerts, and if we get, yeah, if we get something above 0, then we are going to show an alert, which maybe it's a good idea to also show that there's no alert or show some spacing here. But yeah, this should be above this part here. So this is saying also the missing value policy that if there is no value for a specific second, then consider it as 0. I think this is because in this specific case, we return, well, we get a 0 basically. Well, actually, we don't get 0, we get nothing from Prometheus, basically saying, yeah, there's simply no counter, so we are safe. And so we're saying this is deep red. Um, and yeah, similar to what we said above, if we get two metrics for the same second, we just override the previous one. All right, so this is the lot average 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes that we saw over here on the purple line. And these are going to Prometheus to capture node 1, 5, and 15. And then we are also saying we only want to store the last 30 metrics. You can see here that this does not contain the start and end of the query. This is because we are going to calculate the current time, and this is also a bug right now, or yeah, we have to figure out how to do this. Maybe it's a bug, I'm not sure yet. But we get the current Unix epoch, and then we subtract, I think we subtract probably this and get the last 30 seconds of values here, or basically we have one data point per second. This is the current granularity. We need to fix that at some point and say, for example, we could work on minutes where we say, yeah, the is this true? Is this true? Yeah, we want granularity, for example, of 1 minute or maybe 1 hour even. And then we write one data point per time unit. Now we're saying here we want to refresh this every 15 seconds. So I guess that is why this doesn't move too often. But then it doesn't make sense what I'm saying here. I guess then what it means is we're going to store 30 metrics, each one 15 seconds apart. So that will be, yeah, we're going to try to, yeah, it's 15 minutes, something like that, I think. 7.5 maybe, I don't know, who cares? Yeah, so we store one data point per, yeah, per response here. In this case, I think these are unique. These do not contain metrics. These are, oh, look at that. Actually, this is part of, this is part of this graph. So it's, I was saying that it was in this section, but actually it's here. So if we see a red line, it's because something there is alerting on our current system. Then we have one for memory. So this one also, again, is going node active bytes for the memory used. And memory total, this is going for the node memory mem total bytes. Yeah, similar. We have All of them are refreshing every 15 seconds right now. So you can notice here that this is a reference to a local host, but this can be anything that has Prometheus. So for example, at work, I have some Kubernetes clusters and I decide to use, I have, for example, for each cluster, I have the number of nodes because sometimes I'm afraid of the scaling policies going through my budget, or not my budget, but the budget of the company. So I have them here, and I also may have some alerts for them. And the part I'm working on today is thinking of these decorations, which are separate from the charge decorations. And these are, for example, these hexagons that we see over here. So the way these hexagons are built is that I didn't know Nano existed before, so I calculate the vertices. So I say, this is vertex 1, vertex 2, vertex 3, and then I give them, I think I give them increasingly more alpha as they go to the center. And you can see here the radius is 100, so this is 100 pixels. I think they start from here where we say the first one, second one, and so on. So we build a set of hexagons here. Then we increase them by the radius to make them not overlap. So basically this hexagon here and then this hexagon here, if I draw them at the same height, they would overlap. Like this would be kind of here and it would look kind of funny. Yeah, this is gathered from StarCraft, by the way. Like it's like I think the grid layout that they have, and I want to add some lines here that maybe show some sort of light shining. Maybe depending on the activity, we'll show some. For example, if I type a lot, I want to show like thunder or something effects, very very light. And this is the one that we need right now. So again, this radius has to or should match the above uh, or below hexagon. I don't know, there's a hexagon drawn at the same location as this circle. This circle I think should be here. I'm not sure. I think I'm missing something in my calculation of the center. Yeah, but it should be here. And then this line is jumping a little bit. It looks a little bit funny. I think this is because we are trying to send an event to the redraw of the Alacritty terminal, and I think we are trying to send it like every 0.2 seconds, something like that. I think I did it initially because I thought it was going to be heavy. I thought it was going to be a little bit too much for the machine, but I'm not so sure anymore. Yeah, anyway, in this case, probably have enough CPU power. Okay, so the way that this was built before is that I created like a bunch of nano um, primitive drawings. So they are all simply saying get the current time of, for example, second, minute, hour, and so on, and find a way to draw the arc and draw the arc over and over and over every 0.2 seconds, which is very expensive. Well, it's not expensive, it's just necessary. Like the day of year, why are we drawing it every single 200 milliseconds? Yeah. So the goal that we're trying to do now is to find a way to draw this only when it is needed and cache the vectors that we had from the previous iteration. So to do this, I started thinking of creating a polar clock unit, and I have an is30, and is30 will tell me if I need to force a regeneration. So the first time that I ever draw this, or the first time that I ever instantiate this object, I want to create these vertices, and then the next time is going to calculate the current time versus the last time that we draw this unit, and then and then there is an error here. Let's put, this is the last drawn, and the radius is here, the multiply, oops, not here. Oh, I think I messed up all the comments. The color is here, so multiplier, color, stroke. Yeah, this comment were wrong. So the last time this unit was drawn, only regenerate these vertices if this unit progresses. So for example, we can store the milliseconds, and then yeah, that would help us draw this not once per second, like jumping once per second. So we can make some animation probably that allows us to jump a little bit. I'm not sure yet how to use uniforms, maybe later. And if so, then these vex will be updated. And so I thought maybe I would create tab aliases for each one of these. And because each one of these has different logic, right? For example, they have, for once I have to calculate, for example, the amount of days in a year. Whereas for another one, I have to calculate the number of seconds. But then comes the thing that even though they need this special calculation from yeah, the range of time. Even though they need this, all of them will generate an angle in the end. All of them would use its radial multiplier. There is already RGB. So basically, this whole section over here is duplicated everywhere. It's similar to, I think this section is going to be similar as well. So I'm thinking that I will generate, I think I'm going to generate an enum that returns this range of time. For example, 365, 366 days, depending on what we have. And also it will return the angle of the current, I don't know if the right word is window. I think my English fails me here. Yeah, I think it would be easier. And then this function can inspect its current. Yeah, I can just ask the enum to give it this kind of stuff. Yeah, and then it's gonna be much easier for us to do this, and we don't need to redo the same lines over and over and over for this. So to do that, yeah, this is not probably the right. So instead of unit here, what is the right word for this? It's called dial? Polar clock. Yeah, the unit sounds like this. And then what is this actually? This is the polar clock. It's kind of polar clock state. Maybe we can call it like this, state. And then we create a pub enum of polar clock unit. And we're going to delete this here. Oops, what am I doing here? Yeah. So let's create a derive debug for this guy. There's no default for this. Let's put this on top of this here. This bill, we're gonna have to move it around at some point, but not yet. So the polar clock unit state the unit of time unit is let's call it pub for now, who cares? Well, I think probably nothing here needs to be pub. Especially because we're gonna use a new here. So where do we store this? I think it should be the first one. Actually, let's remove all these pubs. It looks so ugly. Because all we care about is the vex, and do we care about is sturdy? Yeah, probably. Well, we'll figure it out later. So this is going to be. Where's my polar clock? So this is the polar clock, and in here, all of them are polar clock unit states. Does it make any sense? Maybe. So, and this is going to be unit state as well. Unit state as well. Yeah, I was thinking of using this type aliases, but I don't think I like it anymore. So polar clock units. We can move this later also to another. If we move it somewhere else, maybe we need a. Actually, probably we don't need it. So let's just start with the definition of this guy. So what we want to get here is get a range. It's not really called a range. Could it be called a range? Let's call it a max value for now. This takes a reference to self and returns. I think most of the types we saw for seconds, for day of month, and so on, they were U32s. But I was reading then about Y2. What is it called? 2038, 2038, when the epoch would overflow. Should I care about it right now? Well, this is what Rust returns right now. Maybe if the time comes, then it should return some of the. So we're not dealing with Unix epoch right now, so who cares? So let's match self, and we say that if I think I want to put it like this, otherwise it's gonna look a little bit complicated to read later. Gets the number of days of the current year. Okay, so we need to get here. I'm not sure really how to call this differently, but we want to get a reference to a time that is local, which means we also need to get it here. And this is actually going to also return the U32. So just making it like this is going to make it easier for us to test it also. I don't want to have to send it here. So if this is the case, if we're just going to call an internal function, then I'm not going to use these brackets here, where we also send the input. Yeah, this is not going to be good. Let's call it unimplemented. Okay, so let's see. When we come to gen vertices, we need to get a tick time for the current. This is also a U32. Let's see if we can do this here. The polar clock unit set cannot have a default actually, but I think we have relied on defaults for all the... Yeah, we have this default for the decorations to be able to read them without much config from the YAML file. So we're gonna have to create a silly one here, which doesn't really make any sense. And actually everything here is wrong. It's day of month and then day of year. Oops. So let's pretend like this is day of year by default for no good reason. We will also document why it's not a good idea. The unit was the first one, so let's put it here. Unit, unite, very nice. Day of year, oops, not this, day of year. So everything is day of year, right? Yeah. All these values could also be returned by they could also be returned by these guys here. Yeah, because there's so much data here. It's kind of uncomfortable to hold it here all this time. It's like RGBA here is so many. We could just reference it as a unit. So that means that the unit needs to hold the radius multiply. We have to hold not the x and the y, because the x and the y, these are variable. These are depending on what has been found as the center, which again is failing, it should be here. But the radius also shouldn't be there. These three can remain here. The last run unit, it can remain here. The vex can remain there, and these 32. But these three could be like a property of the unit. Is it called a property? And if it was a property, how could it be done that I configure it through a YAML file? We're gonna have to pass it around since we read the config into all the way into here, somehow send it and say, you know what, like maybe we can create a from YAML, and this one receives a set of yeah, some sort of config here. I think we can tag this somehow so it's CERDI. I think we also need to import CERDI for GUI. Maybe not. Okay, one thing at a time. Let's do max value. Returns the max value for the current time unit in the time frame. For example, for a year, it return the number of days in the current year, or month, or etc. No. And then we were also saying that something needed to be documented. Oops. But then we trailed off. All right, maybe we will remember it. Maybe not. Probably not. So gets the current time unit value. Get time unit value. This has a reference to self and has to return a U32. And then this is where we would say, you know what, this is the ordinal. So we're going to return this over here. Oops. So we also get the input. Let's call it input time. And this is going to be the same thing as this guy. Input time. Let's call this all input times. Why not? And also here, input time and input time. And we're going to say that we also want to use the same logic. Not the same logic, but so if it is the day of year, we will get the ordinal. That makes sense. Then let's put the rest here. Oops. So how do we get these values? I think we may have them in another file. Decorations. So that was Polar Clock, and this is probably Nano. Yeah, so this is the ugly way that we were doing it before, and now we can move it into, I would think, a little bit of a better logic. So this is the day, draw month of arc. Oh yeah, we have already removed the day of year and it's here. So now the month of year uses the cell that now that month. So this will be month. Let's prefill these guys like this. Then the day of month uses cell that now the day. This one over here uses dot hour. This one uses minute. This one uses second, which is not true. We don't. Well, I'm missing actually something here. Hold on. Hour, minute, and then I think we actually want to have both the nanoseconds and yeah, we want to hold both of them because we don't want to draw one line or increment in degrees of 1 second because it kind of looks a little bit jumpy. Didn't like it too much. So let's copy this logic here. Only these two lines are needed probably. So it's not really second of minute. I'm gonna call it millis of minute, milliseconds of minute. Same for this thing here. So this is input time dot this, input time dot this. Let's see. So this is actually how to look. It is The second times 1,000. The second times 1,000. So 1 second is 1,000, and then we add the nanoseconds divided by. It is a floor. Yeah, because we have to return a U32. So it's not really milliseconds then what we are getting here. Well, yeah, it is actually milliseconds because we're multiplying this by 1,000. And then we divided the nanoseconds by 1,000,000. And then we can add them, and a unit would be milliseconds. So wondering if I should call it millis of minute instead of millisecond of minute. Yeah, let's leave it like this. I think we need to return this as U32. So we have this is multiplied by 1,000. This was already a U32. I think I can do this here. Nanoseconds, as we have to divide this, turn as a floor, and then return a U32, and then the total output should be a U32. Yeah. So now instead of our this tick asking for the ordinal, we are going to ask self dot unit dot get time unit, and we send over the tick time. So this will return some unit. For example, the day, the month. We compare it. If it is different, we reuse the current tick unit, and now we generate the vertices again. So now we need to find the days in years. So I'm going to put here, instead of days in year, we're going to say self dot input, well, self dot unit, sorry, dot max value of. Do we need to send over the input time? I think we will need to do this. Yeah, because the year, the month, everything changes all the time. So we're gonna also call this the time, and we're gonna send it over here as well in the gen vertices. But this was I thought this was for minute. This was a trait, the gen vertices, and that we were not receiving this. Well. So now instead of this ordinal, we can also do the get time unit value. So we are saying whatever gets the current unit in a time unit and divided by the max value, and this is, yeah, this would give us the number of angles for the current unit. So let's call it progress. No idea really what to call it. And now we can move this. Yeah, I think we can move this now to the get max value of the year. So find the number of days in the current year by getting the first day of the current year and the first day of the next year and subtract them. Let's put this as a comment here. Num days. Yep. So let's try to do the one for the what do we have here? Draw month of year arc. So this should it be day of year max value? Yeah, this is a little bit tricky because it's actually hard coded. So I don't want to put it here for some reason. Month of year. If it is the max value, it's just 12. They don't have a variable number of. Day of month. This one is variable. So let's put it here. Day of month max value. Days in month. So the variable we want is the days in month, which is there. Okay, 155, comma, this guy, yoink. And then we put it here. Let's put it actually here, and then we remove, oops, we remove this tree. So find the number of days in the current month by getting the first day of the current month and the first day of the next month, oops, the next month, and subtracting them. So we have an input time and input time dot. So anywhere we see cell dot now, we can subtract this here. We can replace it here, what I'm talking about. So the first day of next year is needed in case our current time, so if we are in December, we need to find the next year. Otherwise, we can just say, you know what, go to the next month. So then is this function here returns, it's from 1 to 12. Okay, we're good. And then first day of the month is just changing the current day to 1, whichever day it is. And then we can return this value, which is an I64 as U32, I guess. Why is this an I64? It's probably for a good reason. Day of month max value of input time. Then hour of day, yeah, it's 24. Minute of hour, this is 60. Milliseconds of minute, this is 60. I think we had it like this before somewhere. And then we don't need this anymore. So now we also need to add this to the unit value. Actually, the unit value is already done. I wonder if this variable, if this is it must be a static value, right? I hope it's not synchronizing by itself and then we get a second in one run and the milliseconds on the second call. Yeah, it cannot be. It's not a mutable thingy. Hopefully it should work. Okay, so where were we before? Polar clock unit state, which we don't have a default anymore because we don't really want a default, I think. Yeah, actually, this is what we want to document. Default function is there only for this should be used at all. The config file parsing let's put it in a new line because probably we'll put this in a to-do. Config file parsing needs to be adjusted to receive and parse somehow the angle, weight, radius, multiplier, etc. Well, since we already have a radius multiplier so long, let's put also stroke weight here. Color, why not? So this is not true. We don't want to use that as we said above. Polar clock unit state. So the tick is going to set the current, the last run unit, and it's going to set the, so what we need to say here is that, yeah, it's kind of like this, but not really. What we need to find out is what is the radius multiplier, the color, the stroke weight. Let's think. So I think I want to store somewhere this radius multiplier, color, because these are very static values, and somehow we're gonna have to read them from config. So this three we said that it's gonna be received. It's something that matches this, or I don't know. Maybe we can also let the user decide if they want one or if they want the whole thing. Maybe with a lot of transparency, this can look fine. Using, yeah, twice as much. Actually, it would be 3 times the radius. It could look interesting as well. But these variables, where can we store them? Should they be part of the unit? I just think that they are tied together. So maybe the unit? So what if we create that? Let's do that for a second and see how it will look. Unit properties. And it's gonna be struct. And then if we move them there, how would it look like? Let's see. So if we move this there, let's see how it looks. So we put them here. Have a radius multiplier, and the color, and the stroke weight. We can create then a method for each one of these that returns the current values for this. Okay, time unit value. Let's move this to the bottom. 103, comma 123. Let's put them here. The current unit value, max value, day of year, month. Yeah, these ones are associated functions, not really getting itself. Ooh. This should be input time dot. There's no self here. Right, yeah. So does it make sense to keep it like this? Because then we have all these properties here that contain the default radius multiplier and so on. So the first version could have them hard-coded, then the next version we can hard-code everything. Now why is this called max value and this one is called get time unit value? Get time unit value. And then did we have a max value somewhere? And get time unit max value. And that's it. So now this has to hold a variable inside of it. So should we do something like this? Let's see. Pub with default. Yeah, this is a little bit ugly. I wish we could get a day of year and from it return the properties. But that would mean then that it is hard-coded and we cannot really change it from the config file. But if it is like this, And if I want to create a new version of a polar clock unit, I would have to create a variant for everything. And this variant, I want to get it from here though. Yeah, let's do it. So with default day of year properties. This receives nothing and returns self. Just function this. And that this self contains the radius multiplier, and this is going to be day of year, radius multiplier. The color is where do I have this? Something like this. Day of year, day of year, day of year. With default day of year props. So how do we go about getting a new polar clock unit for it? It'll be like, maybe look ugly. Polar clock unit. Clock unit. Can we do this like this? Kind of like this. Or should we put these three values here? So we could even call it the same, but then what's the point of having two that do the same operation? I feel like this is an associated struct. I feel tempted to just put these three lines here, or 5 lines here, and then I would save for no good reason. Let's think, if I get this from a configuration file or the SERDI could point to this. If there is no configuration for it, or should they be actually separated? Like in the YAML file, how do I want to define this? I could say something like properties. So how would that be? Yeah, I think it would be easier to configure if I have also unit and properties separated. And if I receive this, I can say, yeah, I'm gonna use the default if nothing is set up. Yeah, let's do that. Properties. The unit of time drawing properties. Yeah, I think it would be easier, right? Because then we have a similar thing on the charts where we have these props here, and these props contain actually the same values. Yeah, let's do that. I'll be right back. I'll get some water. Okay, so we're going to put the properties here. Power clock state unit properties. So then we are not going to use this here. Yeah, otherwise it was a little bit complicated to do all these matches and. Can also delete this from here. But there is a one-to-one relationship still. Let's do it like this initially. Let's see how far we can get. So we can do something like if we get a property, we use it, otherwise we return the default. Default day of year props. I can do the same thing for so create the default properties. Arc. This is the outermost arc. This is the second to outermost arc. Third. So this is the month of year. So whatever we have day of year, we need to change this. To month of year. Month of year raise multiplier. Alright, first day of year, then we have the day of month. Day of month arc. Let's put this on a new line, why not? And this also comes here. For the day of month. Day of month, so I changed 12 letters. And this is a day of month. Oops. Now I can change the day of year everywhere. Yeah. Default properties for the what's next after the day of month? We have the hour of day. Hour of day. For the hour of day arc. So hour of day, this is the third This is getting a little bit silly. The third arc from the center. I don't know, maybe it's easier to keep them in my head like this. I guess the number 4 is too much for me. All right, so hour of day, and then let's change this to be hour of day. So what I'm doing here is I counted that this is 11 characters, and then if I do C11L is change 11 letters, and then it changed 11 letters, and then I type by hand hour of day, and now I can use the dot to replay my previous operation on the current position of the buffer. Okay, let's try this again. So second, so create the default properties for the what's next? Minute of hour. So I can do change. So C3W is change 3 words. C3W, minute of hour. And then this is the second arc. And I can do change till P. So basically change anything until it finds a P is here, right? So change CTP, change TP, change until it finds a P, TTP, and then I can do minute of hour. Oops, apparently. Then we're gonna do again the same thing, change 11 letters. So C11L, C11L, and then we're doing the minute of hour. And then N, because I am searching for day off, day off, day off, day off, day off. So now we have all these series in minutes. So copy those 2 lines is C2, actually yang 2, yang to yang, Y to Y, and then P for paste. Create the default properties for the day. Oh, this is millis of minute, milliseconds of minutes. It sounds a little bit weird, right? Millis usually sounds like yeah, a range that would be 1,000th of a second, and it should only be the start and end of a second. So it should be second with millis, kind of. Should we put here second of millis? How would it look like? Second with millis of minute. Yeah, I think I like it more because, or at least I hate it less. So change till capital O. So CT capital O, CT capital O, seconds with millis, W with millis of minute, and then N for the next time that it finds it, and for the next time that it finds it, and so on. Doesn't find it anymore. Okay, so the last one was with default day of year. So again, change till P for props, right? So CTP, CTP removes all this thing and says seconds with millis of minute. Jesus Christ, this is so long. For the seconds with millis of minute. Yeah, it's clearer. Looks. So let's search for day off because we know everything starts with day off. So now we change C11L, change 11 letters, C11L, and this is this doesn't exist really. We're gonna have to create it, but seconds with millis of minute. Wow, this is so ugly. Seconds with millis, but it's very clear. I mean, I'm not gonna think like, is this a seconds or blah 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 blah. I thought I could say seconds times 1,000 plus millis. That could be even worse. All right, it's a day of n dot n dot n dot n dot. So n is finding the next one. Dot is apply the last change. So when we did C11p, it saves it in a buffer, and then when I do n, it would reply. For example, if I do this again, which is not something I want to do, it would break a little bit the line, right? Because it's going to change 11 letters and then add whatever I want, right? So that's not exactly what I want, but this is what I want. So now we have to rename our consts because this second of minute, this is no longer true. Now, that should be a good way to do this. But this one ends in alpha, this ends in ready, this, yeah. I wonder if I could do something like change until the third underscore. I don't know, it would be like C3 underscore, no. C underscore 3P, no. C T CTL underscore, no. C, no, I'm not sure how to do that. So let's count them. So this is the ugliest way ever. So 6 plus 3, 9 plus 6, 17, 15 plus 1, 16. So C, 16 letters, C, 16 letters. And this would be second of minute, seconds with minute, second with millis of of minute, and then n for the next time seconds off, dot to reapply, n to find the next one, dot to reapply, and that's it. Okay. So we have with default day of year props, with default month of year props. I'm gonna just, if I press a star, it would find the next time that this exists. I'm gonna do this just because I'm lazy and I don't know if I'm repeating one by mistake, if I forgot one. So far, it looks like I didn't do this time. So instead of this, we should create something like, it's not called into props. Oh, we could do a, yeah, we could do a one-way transform just for fun because it's not really a good idea in this case, I think. It's not really a from, it's default props, let's call it like this, default props. This gets a self and this returns a polar clock unit. So we can match self and I can see here, oops. So let's copy this, is it 6 guys? Yeah, 6. So if I do yank 6 yank, this is yank 6 lines, right? So yank is y, so y 6y, yeah, number 6, yeah, 6 yank 6 yank y 6y, and then I can do p for paste, and then in this case I am in insert mode, so I can do yeah, I don't know why I indented it. There's gonna be a auto indent anyway because things do not match, but yeah. And uppercase J as in jump removes the new line at the end of this line. So if I do J, it would just remove it a little bit. Then I'm going to remove, actually I'm going to do this here. I'm going to remove, I want to change this to this. So if I do capital C, change anything until the end of the line. And then I write what I want, then I press escape. Now this is saved in a buffer and I can just press the dot and it will reapply my last change. And now I can put them all. So what I did here is I do yank with double Y. So yeah, YY is yank. And then P for paste, P for paste, P for paste, P for paste, P for paste. So I need to adjust this a little bit. So again, we were saying I need to change from this location until the P. So C until P, CTP, CTP, CTP. And now I can do here month of year props. Again, I'm gonna do the same. So I can actually search for day underscore. So CTP and then day of month. Yeah, then hour of day, CTP, hour of day. Then CTP, minute of hour. Then M to find the next day, CTP, seconds with millions of blah, blah, blah. A million years later it finishes. Now we need to add a comma here. So I'm going to go to the end of the line, press A for append, add the comma, press escape. Then if I come here, I can do dot and it replaces my last addition like this. And now if I sit anywhere here, I can do the capital J and it should remove the last new line. So I'm gonna arrow key down, capital J, arrow key down, capital J, blah, 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 blah. And now it looks a little bit better and it's gonna be called then default props. So this takes a reference to self and gives us the default properties. Creates a new polar clock unit, returns the default properties for a given. No, this is so that we do not have to configure every single thing, every single property for every single arc dial in the config YAML file. So necessarily YAML, just config file here. Okay, then we have the default props. Now we can use them somewhere, and it will be here. So the default, let's see how it will look like. So unit is equals to this unit. Would this work? We can say unit and props is equals to unit dot default props. Not totally sure this works. Yeah, I'm curious now because this is going to be moving this value and then we are kind of trying to use it to, well, the probably, well, if like the worst, like the way to fix this, if this was something heavy that could move values or generate thingies, probably will be like this, but because it is at self, it is ampersand self, it is a reference to self, at least these default props, then it shouldn't care at all. I think the compiler should understand this probably, otherwise we will just add the props like I did. Yeah, but I don't want to do this right now. All right, so let's imagine we're gonna create a new. So if I press GD, as in go definition, it is going to go to the definition of this enum. So GD, go definition, and it, as you can see, it jumps here. So Polar clock unit state. What is a polar clock unit state? The properties, the units, the new is a little bit tricky, right? The new receives a now, and it ticks. But this doesn't make much sense unless we have a unit already. So this new is a little bit ugly. I think we should remove this new. I don't like this new. I mean, we need a new, and the new probably, we just need to make sure that this dirty is true the first time that we instantiate this polar clock unit state. So maybe we can receive a unit, and potentially we can receive these variables here. We can make a builder for this, but is it too much an overkill? Haven't we gone already too far from the simplicity of what we want to achieve? We want to create something that is similar to this, right? Where we say, you know what, I want to create a polar clock unit state, and we receive this, and yeah, let's bring it back 1 second, this new. We want to receive a unit as well. So, yeah, maybe this is doable. Let's say we get the unit. So this is a little bit tricky, a little bit ugly, but rest that unit is equals to unit. And then rest that props is equals to unit dot props, default props for it. We could also get properties here, right? For example, the properties could be an option. And if there is nothing, we go for the default ones. Is it too much of an overkill if we don't even know how we'll configure it? Let's put it here just because at some point we might use them. So props is an option of the polar clock unit. So what I'm doing is PCU, and I can't remember what this is called, but this is gonna find what matches even if I am just giving the uppercase ones. So PCU properties. So we can say that if let some props are equals to my props, then else actually. Should we do this like this? Kind of ugly, right? Let's do this like this. Let's use Rust, why not? Rust the props equals to match props. And then if it is on props, we return props. If it is on none, we return the unit.default props. And then we can remove this thing. Yeah, much better like this. I think it looks beautiful. Otherwise, having the if else there, well, beautiful is a big word for this. Well, we want to, like, the main thing here is that we get this dirty equals true. And this is the only reason actually we are using this default. And then to be honest, we also said above that we don't want to use it. And then how are we going to fill this with XY radius? I'm starting to think that we will not use this default anymore. So we receive the units, we can get the props, we need this tree anyway from the construct, from wherever instantiated. We can set this here. Yep. Let's not use this default. Let's follow our own documentation for once. Yeah, shouldn't be used at all, and we will not use it. So we have a unit, we have a now. This should be tick time. Let's call this tick current time. Input time. Input time. Yeah, the first thing that we run is we want to tick. So we are going to shadow this variable. We want to have the normal props. Then the unit is already there. So the res is going to have unit, props, x, y, radius, last run unit is 0. So the most important part here is that this is not important because is dirty is true, and it will overwrite this value the first time. The first time we call tick. And now such a long comment. Let's put this here. Why not? Oops. So DW removes everything until it finds something like a word boundary. So if I have this here, I don't have to do XXX or delete. I can just do DW, delete word. And then is dirty equals true. This is the most important part, I think. That we make sure that whatever value we have here is it's not important, and that this is empty and needs to be calculated. So now we receive new, which has the unit, the input time. I think I want to receive first x, y in sphere. Let's see how this looks. So the unit has precedence, I think. Then the input time is important. I think the props is the last one because it's an option. So F is an F32, Y is an F. How is this completing even the type? This is amazing. And then the last thing is the radius. Tell me that you, oh my God, this is so beautiful. How can I do this? I don't know. It's magic. So we receive all these parameters for the new. We get the XY radius, lost run units. This radius is interesting. We are going to save the radius and the properties. We have the multiplier in the properties. We could calculate it right away and save the radius. What is that good for? No, but if somebody updates the documentation and we send the documentation, sorry, if somebody changes the configuration and we receive the configuration again, we lost the initial radius. Did we lose it? No, because I think the parent already has it. We could resend it, resend the radius. Yeah, we may be able to get away with finding the effective radius. Yeah, we can call it like an effective radius that is only changed because always multiplying this value over and over and over for the same value as long as the config doesn't change. So let's put a note over here to avoid overlap. This value can, it's not this value, what do I want to say here? This value changes only during config file changes. We can generate a new effective radius multiplier. Effective radius, um, effective radius, that is the original radius times the multiplier and catch the value. Yeah, maybe this radius multiplier can even be thrown away if we use either the config file. No, we need the field to be able to read from the YAML, but we can have the radius maybe we have the effective radius here, because this property that will change its multiplier doesn't change after the config file is read. Yeah, I'll need to change. Well, you know what I mean. Maybe we can change this later. All right, so creates a new unit state potential. There's already 6 arguments. Builder sounds like something we could or should, but maybe next version. The version that never comes. Some properties. All right. So update the vertices. The vertices of the arc if needed. Creates vertices for the polar clock day of year. Clock arc. So this is actually what goes to. Ooh. So one thing I wanted to add here is that I think I want to add some triangles here that say, what am I trying to say? For example, the divisions of time. So for the year, it will have 12 triangles. Maybe we can have 25% of them a little bit opaque and the other ones are a little bit more transparent. And so we can tell, like, you know, when you see a dials on the clock and you know that this is 0, this is 3, 6, and 9. Maybe we can do something similar when I know, like, yeah, these are the number of days. So maybe I can say divided by 25%, or maybe find weeks that are important, or we could even throw some lines here saying this is weekend, this is weekend, this is, well, I don't know, I don't think so because it's 52 different thingies. So no, let's not do weeks. But we could say the months, for example, it will be 12 dials. So we could say the same as hours. And then the minutes, we can make it 15. So the pattern we're seeing here is that 15 minutes is a quarter of whatever, quarter of a whatever, quarter of hour. So we can do the same thing with the day of year. We can say quarters. And so these quarters are going to be the same for everything. For example, the months, the quarter of the month, the quarter of the hour, the quarter of the year, they're always going to be in the same position. So it's not really that meaningful, but we can iterate from 1 until the max value. And then we can make a little dent, a little line, like, and this little line, this little triangle could give us a little bit more context, because right now if I see this hour here, I cannot tell what this is. And also, why isn't this here? Because now that I'm thinking of hours, this should be hour 0. Although maybe this is the whole idea of a polar clock, that it starts at 00 here. But now that I think of hours, I'm starting to struggle finding that this is 12 o'clock. Where 12 o'clock should be 12 o'clock should be here, right? Yeah, I think I'm gonna rotate this 90 degrees. And if we do this, what would it mean? Now I'm confused now. This is our zero. Ah, because this is the 24-hour clock, never mind. That is why it looked funny. I was thinking, why would it be? Why is 12 here, but my hour will be here? But because it is at 24 hours, now I feel tempted to make this hour a 12-hour clock. We can experiment with that too. Maybe we can make it a type. We can say, do you want a 12-hour clock or do you want a 24-hour clock? Yeah, yeah, not sure. All right, so gen vertices. So how do I create a new one of these? I would have to say I want to create a new one with whatever. So I need XY radius props, and I will send XY radius props over and over and over. Wait, why do I have it in the state again? The state has X, Y, Z. Yeah, I need this to calculate the arc with the properties. This kind of properties as well. But this draw uses this XY, right? Where is my XY? Otherwise, I will need to say self dot props dot x dot y dot radius. Yeah, these properties are kind of calculated. I think these properties, I'm not sure if it makes sense to keep them. Not sure if it makes sense to keep them right here. Like, what should we keep here? The units, the props, the loss from unit effects is dirty. This makes sense. But I'm starting to think that XY radius should be part of the properties. How would it be different? So we have unit, the get time unit, and then we can say props. Yeah, let's, otherwise we're receiving, well, we will receive so many parameters anyway. And then these default props, they are gonna be tricky because now we always need to send the default props, the XY radius, which is kind of funny because why would default receive parameters? That's kind of the opposite. It would be like kind of with default optional properties, kind of like that. Default optional properties. I'm gonna leave a note here. Consider moving this. Consider moving this to the props. Let's put it like this. Also here, did here. Should I leave this? Yes, I don't know. This is so ugly to put it here, but it's so ugly that I will probably figure it out because it's so ugly to see. Gives us some pressure. So continue this polar clock state. The day of year is equals to, yeah, we have to receive then potentially this. Yeah, kind of like this. So not sure why this is. Actually, I need this pub because I'm gonna call this from outside to do a get vertex, get vex, and this vex is pub. Yeah, yeah. So we have 6 arcs. So DW deletes word and then dot repeats the thing I wanted to actually, let's do like this, change word CW because I wanna do actually it's change 4 letters C 4L tab and then come to the star, press star to get the next one. Then I do dot to replay, and dot and dot and dot. And now this, I'm gonna delete this guy. We need to create a polar clock unit state new. And this new now will need to receive a unit. So let's see how it will look like. It is here, so new. This new receives the unit, which is day of year. It receives the input time, receives x, y, radius. Yeah, we need to save this on the state. Unless I send the xy radius as a parameter to the gen vertices. And then I do not need to keep them anywhere. And then if we change this center index, these coordinates, if we change these coordinates, we will need to send them over to my polar clock. So basically, we have a chord X and chord Y. This is the real ones we want, and we have a radius. And then when we call the polar clock.gen vertices, we can send over these 3 parameters and we never have to store. Yeah, I like it. Let's delete these guys from here then. XY radius are gone, XY radius are gone, XY radius are gone. Do I have XY radius somewhere else? Yeah, this is much better. We don't have to duplicate so much stuff. Then in here, we will receive tick time, X. Oh, this is so beautiful. Y and radius. Oh my god, I don't know how this does this, but this is magic. So now we can remove this here. I'll remove this radius. So now whenever we get called the gen vertices, we need to be sent this. So whenever we also call the tick, so whenever we send the new, we also need to do that. X, Y, radius. Let's copy paste this here. XY radius, and this gen vertices receives XY radius. And now when, oh, I'm missing a comma here. So now we need to send XY radius here to the new one. And what else do we need? None. So we're going to capital C for changing everything, and then mouse. So changing everything until the end of the line. So capital C, and I paste the mouse, and then oops. So if I want to jump to the start of this letter, to this word, sorry, I press B, as in backwards, I guess. And then if I do dot, it replays. So again, J for the lower line, B for backwards word, dot for paste, or for replay, sorry, dot for replay. So B, dot for replay. And now we need to change this here. I'm gonna press a star to highlight them all because I want to replace the next occurrences of it. So this is gonna be month of year. This is gonna be day of month. And then if you pay attention to the last thing we were saying is that I can use the uppercase letters of the camel case thingy. So for example, hour of day would be HOD, hour of day. So CW, HOD, hour of day. Then N for the next one. And then minute of hour is M, minute of hour, MOH. I press tab, enter. Then escape, N for the next one. And then this would be second of minute. Seconds with millies of minutes, something like that. Yeah. All right, so now we have the polar clock state. For the polar clock state, I think we're always gonna have to receive XY radius. So let's put this here. I'm gonna delete this part here, add a comma, and do this here, and then the tick for each one of. Do we have a tick already? That sounds weird. Probably won't. I hope we don't have ticks. But ticks receive this already here. So I actually need to just copy the signature. So let's put this here. And then we will tick each one of our XY radius. I don't know what I'm copying this. And that's it, right? So this has to be done for many things. So if I do YY, this is for yank, yank, then P for paste, everything. And now I can go into this one and press a star to highlight everything, right? So I highlight, then I CW for change word. CW, month of year. And CW, day of month. Tab, day of month. And CW, hour of day. And CW, minute of hour. Escape, YYP. So in yank yank. Paste, minute of hour is second of minute. Dot tick. So we ask each one of our arcs to tick. We send over the XY radius. It's a little bit ugly. Sometimes I think I could store them here. Actually, why am I receiving the props here and not using them here? It will be props here. So CW props. Then I press here star, highlight them or to put them in my buffer. So you can see here that I'm searching now for this in words with no magic. I think it's something like what it means. I'm not completely sure. Now the props and props and props and then every time I'm going to replay, I do dot. So the dot is gonna replay what I had before. So why did I have this here? I think I don't need this anymore, right? Let's go to the definition. So GD is for go definition. And I'm not using this XYZ for anything, so let's delete them here. And then this tick, I need them for the tick, yeah. Unless I decide to sell the tick. Yeah, I want to do that. I'm not gonna tick from here. after creating this object, the caller must call tick to populate the vertices. Okay. So now in here we can delete all of this and just say we only need about the input time. So d until dt, you can see here dt, and then the parenthesis means delete until the parenthesis. Oh, I am deleting a little bit more than I should because I need to retain the props. So I need to do ctp change, or actually delete until p for properties. So if I do this dt, oh, I have to be actually here because look at this. If I do the dt, it forgets the comma because I'm not in the right position. If I stay here and I do dtp, it now deletes them fine. So now I can press a star to search for X like this. So now DTP and then N, DTP, N, DTP, N, DTP, N, DTP, N. Yeah, actually I'm pressing dot to reapply the last operation all this time. So I'm doing N dot, N dot, N dot, N dot, and it's replaying everything I'm doing. And now the tick is the one that will do this, but if I want to do this new, I also want it to tick. So let's do this here, and then we do res.tick. Tick needs to be though, tick needs to be mutable. So we need to make our res mutable as well. All right, so we mutable res. We initialize everything. Then we say I need you to tick to update. Just like our documentation says, we need to call tick after we. It's not really objects. What do we call this? After new, I don't know what is the right wording to say this. After this new instance, after new, the caller must call tick to populate the vertices. Okay. And now we can say here creates a new polar clock state for the given time. Not totally happy with this XY radius here, but I'll be able to tick. And then what do we want to put here? Increment or calculates the vertices of the polar clock if needed. So whenever we are given the polar clock which we need to create here, we need to say the new receives so this now is the local decoration. If we receive a new, we need to say local now. Do we have an, who uses this new actually? We can delete all these functions now, all these ugly functions. Gen vertices as well. No, we need this part. So, yeah, the tick is going to increment them. So, where is the tick here? Tick. If if time that floor is different to the last drum in the second floor, gen vertices. So self.polarclock.tick, and the tick receives now self.now, comma self.chord.x, self.chord.y. Oops, there is an error here. And what else do we need to receive here? The radius, self.radius. So this increments all of them of the polar clock. Now these chain vertices. Anytime we call this now, we can do this. We should call the tick for the polar clock. So the update of NGL vec is actually the one we want. That gives us the right coordinates. So when we create this here, with this new, we tick and we generate invalid. We generate invalid, or we generate some vertices that will not be used. So let's put the same thing here. We say after new. So after new, the color must call tick, and we can remove this here. And now we can also remove this whole thing here and here and here. So whoever calls this new must also call tick. And this tick is the one that would actually change the thing. So let's see, imagine that this is the first time we call it. It will be called with this dirty equals true. The next time it is called, it will say, actually, you're dirty, so we're going to recalculate it with XY radius. Yeah, this is good. So when we call this here, the new receives a none for now. We'll figure it out later. This gets a new polar clock. The polar clock is here. When we tick, if we change the now, we also tick the polar clock. This is because we want to do other things besides the polar clock in Nano. For example, this is supposed to be the moon phase at some point, so we will show maybe the light of the day, like how much daylight we have available can be here. So I'm gonna have to remove this Arch Linux logo from the background probably. But let's finish this part. So the draw arc path. Oh, I think I do not have this yet, do I? Actually, I have it somewhere. But I was considering not storing this here. I was thinking that that I have a function that receives so many parameters and uses each parameters almost in order, well, not in order, but it uses all of them just to do this. So instead of having one line where I do not know clearly what these values are, I could have the line split into multiple things where it's very clearly known what each one of them does. Yeah, so let's do that. Yeah, we're gonna remove the draw path. I'm gonna copy. So Yang 6Y, Yang 6, and then you see this here, and then Yang again. So Y will yank my lines and I have my buffer, and now I can paste them. Oh, look at that. Apparently I already did this. Then the stroke weight is there. Where is my multiplier here? I was already multiplying the arc radius here. So this radius is here. Radius is something that I receive, and I have to multiply this by self that props dot radius multiplier, and then instead of this days in year angle, I'm gonna use the progress angle. What else am I missing here? Where is my color? The color itself, the color. I think it's props.color, isn't it? Yeah, it's props.color. And this is also props.color. Wait. What else am I missing here? I'm not sure if I can make this dynamic. So let's remove this DD for deleting all this. And I think now we can remove, for example, these things here. Let's remove all these things. Draw, minute, draw, second, draw. Gem footage from Nano we still need it. The draw arc path, I don't think we need it anymore. The update of NGL vex will call our Pora clock to tick. The gen vertices receives the draw instance, which we use here. Then gen vertices, this self that draw that something, this does not exist anymore. So this is gonna be power clock dot day of year dot vex. Maybe we can make it a function to properly read this. So I'm gonna press start to get the next instance of this, right? No, actually it doesn't work. I'm just gonna do dot b dot j b as in backwards, dot for replay, j for low, b as in backward, d for replay. And now this is a month of year, day of month, then B as in backward word, CW for change word, hour of day, tab, escape, then B for backwards word, CW for change word, minute of hour, escape, J, B as in backwards words, B as in backwards word, second, this is not good, it's not called seconds of minute, it's called what do we call this again? Seconds with millis of minutes. So CT underscore to change until the underscore, and then seconds with millis of minute escapes, and dot for replay, and dot for replay, and that's it. Oh yeah, here too. So we get all the vex. So this is going to remove the vex actually, so I need to clone this, otherwise it will remove them. Because yeah, that's the point of making it a mutable reference here. Day of year, month of year, day of month, hour of day, minute of hour, and so on. Okay. What is going on here? It says expected datetime local, fault datetime local. Oh yeah. Well, actually, do we have a now already here? Yeah. Let's do this. Let now equals to local.now, and then we're gonna reference it here with now, and also here. Now we save them both and let's see what errors do we have. So these chain vertices, apparently it needs chain vertices from NanoDraw is private, so let's do that part first. And we need to send a size info. So the size info is just tricky because it needs to be sent here as well. This is getting really ugly. Gen vertices. Let's see if we can make this, maybe move this to gen vertices. So tick time, X, Y, oops, and here the size info, and here the size info. What else going on here? If you joined, what is metro? Maybe? I don't want to name it here anymore. You're saying that you don't know a vector here. Okay. Oh yeah, this is a tricky one. We were saying that if we are in work hour days, in work hour, within the work hours, so 9 to 5, we can, we would show a different color. So when we go, yeah, this is an interesting one. We're gonna have to fix this. Hour of day, work, hour of day. So I'm going to put here first this, and then I'll think about how this can be changed. Maybe when we call tick, we can change it. Yeah, that's a good idea. So we're gonna put this here to do. When we call tick, we may also change the RGBA of the arc. Yeah, I like this actually, it's a good idea. Let's see, 32. So polar clock unit, we need to implement for it. Yeah, serialize, everything. Let's see if we can do this. I don't know how far we can get with this. Has to be a reference to now. Size info is a private field on hex points 184. Tick. Size info is a private field. Is it what it's saying? Cannot find size info. Size info is correct term size info. Then, oops, it's missing more. Yeah, this is the problem with having such long lines. It's work hour, stroke weight, work. Is this hour of day stroke weight? Yeah. Okay. This also needs the size info. So gen vertices, who calls gen vertices? It's called by the tick, and tick needs now the self.size info. And now when we get the tick of the polar clock, we're gonna need to tick type arguments. Size info is of type size info, and size info here, and then dot to replay, dot to replay, dot to replay, and dot to replay. So when we go for the hour of day, tick. So what we're saying here is that depending on the type of day, we may need to tick update OpenGL vex gen vertices. What is this gen vertices? So we tick here, and we tick also on the update OpenGL vex. Oh yeah, I think this is called first. So why don't we? Yeah, this is why doesn't this call the update OpenGL vex? Because it has to calculate again this thing, but is it not? Yeah, this was kind of laying around a little bit weird for no good reason. I think we can now say call.update OpenGL vex and remove these three guys here. So how would it look? Update OpenGL vex is actually ticking. Shouldn't this call tick? The update OpenGL vex is gonna tick anyway. So why doesn't the update OpenGL vex is almost the same as tick, isn't it? Yeah, the first time that this happens, there is no tick. We need to find the arcs. The second time it's going to be receiving a tick event, and the tick event is going to say, I may want to or not want to redraw the things. Yeah, I think it makes sense. So let's put it here. This is called regularly to potentially affecting polar the decoration. See, that is not just polar clock. The decoration vertices. Call them instant nano decoration. What else are we missing? Yeah, there was something about a private field here on this decoration. Such as the decoration, it will initialize the vertices for the art on the decorations. It's not the best comment I've ever written, but how are you expecting here? Spectrum arguments, fun one. Yeah, this is oops. This has an extra comma. Let's say this. We also need to work on this file 184. It is saying that this size info is private. Let's go to this. Let's make this public. Unknown field. So sign duration since polar clock.rs. Sign duration is as u32. Oops, as u32. Anything else? What is it saying here? Necessary parenthesis. What else? This core.x unknown field. Chords dot. Didn't I have an X or something like that here? What was this before? Chord. Okay. And then there's no self yet. Size info, radius. Size info and radius. And commas missing here. That's it. Gen hexagon vertices. So where are we? Hexagon point background is missing time instant something. Instant. Let's open the mod. So we had this here. Unix epoch. Where's my Unix epoch? I forget where it is. There it is. Why am I using a Unix epoch anyway? Yeah. What else? Instant. Gen hex grid something. Super. What else is missing? think it's getting closer to building. So this is on the hexagon point background. And this is on line 155. And that should be it, right? And then I can go for the rest of my breakfast. It's getting late. This value doesn't have clone or copy. So this is a polar clock and some warnings here where this saying unreachable pattern. Pattern binding day of month is named the same as one of the variants of the type polar clock unit. What? Oh, yeah, this is interesting. Props is dropped here. Just because it is, yeah, it's not an option. Unit default props, what about this? This is saying, I'm not sure yet. But what is this about? Is it because I'm missing the self colon something? I feel tempted to put it here. Let's see. Doesn't make sense, or does it make sense? Does it make sense or not? I wonder if it's because I used to have canonical const inconstants. Yeah, that's possible. You need borrow here after move. Yeah, exactly. I thought you would forgive me this time, but fine. Are you happy now? And then what am I gonna do about those? Can I call non-const function into constants? Yeah. So I wonder how to do this properly then. If this cannot be a const, then yeah, this is going to be, who uses this actually? Let's see, RGB, yeah. Can I make these? I thought they were constant though. Where is gray? Oh, actually this is not so bad now that I think of it. It will help me do a better color. Yeah, actually now I'm thinking, how am I going to deserialize the color name? It's gonna be tricky. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is to change this and put it here. For example, we'll say light color is going to be day of year RGB into format. Oops. And then I think we can just say something like this. Oops. I think this could work. This is not RGB though. Let's see what it says. And then this is gonna be the same thing here. Okay. Day of month RGB. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. We need to tick in to change it. With default minute of our props. Yeah, it's gonna be like a mutation of the current time. We also need to do something like a receive a mutual reference to props, and based on the hour. So the prop will change based on the enum and the value. So in a Tixi would say like, yeah, let's set it to non-work hours. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. It can probably be done easily. And this is seconds with millisminute RGB. Oops. And then this becomes color. Which now it's like, why do I have this function like this everywhere? But now it's gonna say the type is mismatch. Let's see what kind of type is this? Expected F32 found U8. Can I do this? So this is applied for day of year RGB. Name.rs. Collision of name constants can be toggled with a name from stir. They are taken from the SVG keywords. Use palette as RGB. Use palette named let from constant. It is an RGB of U8. So should I use palette named? And palette is RGB. Where is my palette? Looks like it worked. Funny. These are things that still are way too advanced for me. I don't understand what it's. You have just like a lot of types, aliases in this case. Yeah, that's good. I'm not using the non-work hours, and now it is saying that there's no drawing mode in decorations because I am not poop using it. Poop use. What's it called again? Decorations. No drawing mode. No drawing mode. Yeah, so I need to do self here. Yeah, maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe it should be called nano decoration from the start. Yeah, now let's see if this compiles. Hey, there we go. Now it's saying that it expects an RGB somewhere. Also not using the input time. Expected start RGB. And I think this is because I was splitting and I forgot to import some type. Alright, so I'm gonna eat something and then get back to it later. Commit something later on as well. See you guys. Do it.